And the thing is, for the love of God, I could not understand why some general managers and managing directors at these Ford dealerships supported these unethical practices. This tells a lot about their thinking. It blows my mind that you will actually deliberately try to rip people off by price gouging, knowing the fact that they would have to come up with that extra $50,000 for a car. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Parts Talk. Thank you for joining me. We have another preview video to show to you today, and it's all about Ford. Of course, for some reason, Ford is always in the news, and I'm thankful for them to providing me with the necessary news for me to review for you. Again, thank you for joining me. We will continue to be building this platform so we can have a voice for the little people working inside the dealerships that basically has absolutely no voice in what's going on in and around them. So without further ado, let's get right into this video, and we will share our comments as we go along.
I believe that we have to go to a non-negotiated price, totally online, transparent, 100% pickup and delivery model.
Ford has a huge problem, and CEO Jim Farley has had enough. The Ford Motor Company has been in operation for over a century and has always sold through a dealership model. But this model doesn't work anymore. In a world where online is the norm, people are becoming more and more apprehensive about purchasing a car from a dealership. You need to haggle and wait around for hours, all the while hoping you're not being taken advantage of by the dealer. And unfortunately, dealerships are doing just that.
And this is because Tesla and Rivian have now somewhat succeeded where others have failed or even tried to do. So Ford has looked at this model, and now they are taking the necessary steps to ensure that this can work for them.
One dealership was marking up its Ford F-150 Lightnings $50,000 above suggested retail pricing, and this is not an isolated case. Join us today as we explore why it's not such a straightforward problem and what the Ford CEO is doing about it. To fully understand why this is such a large problem, we must first understand why dealerships exist. Car dealerships first came into existence in the early 1900s.
And online sales, e-commerce as it is called, has been knocking on the door for years. They never imagined that it will actually be involved in large units such as motor vehicles. No, can you imagine later on from now, basically anything can be delivered at your doorsteps. And for the record, it was an honor to have worked for the oldest Ford dealership outside of the United States called Kingston Industrial Garage, which was established in 1908. Their website is right here. Team members are right there. So big up to the KIG family down there in Jamaica. Let's continue.
Did he know the problems it would later cause? At the time, they were an excellent scaling strategy. The dealers would be closer to customers and could provide them with a better buying and servicing experience. At the same time, Ford could skip the need to build out physical locations across the country. By the 1930s, dealerships had large showrooms where customers could examine the newest models, speak to a trained salesperson, and resolve any issues that they had with a previously purchased car, all branded under the Ford name. Today,
of course, and that was the main purpose of the manufacturers and the dealership. The dealership is a link between the customer and the manufacturer, so they could use the data and the analytics to study and understand the consumer buying patterns and what they were needed, and also build a relationship with the dealership in terms of customer satisfaction and customer retention, and to keep the wheels of the economies going.
Today, Ford has more than 3,000 dealerships that employ more than 170,000 people across the United States. So, where's the problem? There are two main problems. The first is that they are all franchises, and the second issue is a minefield of red tape and archaic laws. As the showrooms are franchises, Ford does not own them, nor do they fully control what happens at the dealership. The automobile industry has been in a tailspin since the shutdown, and the shortage of semiconductors is wreaking havoc on supply chains.
And I can give you a third problem, which is poor and unethical leadership. You'll see why as we continue.
This new climate has created a situation where dealers and Ford are completely unaligned. Ford wants to sell cars to their customers at an affordable price. Dealers, on the other hand, are in a situation where there is a lot of demand and very low supply. 2020 and 2021 were tough times, and now they are unable to resist the temptation to cash in by charging exorbitant prices. A New York City man reported a 2021 Ford Bronco at a New Jersey dealership with a manufacturer's suggested retail price of $34,855 being sold instead for $49,855. A Ford Lightning Owners Forum member recently reported an F-150 Lightning at a California dealership with a suggested retail price of $91,000 was being sold for $145,309. The situation was similar for the Ford Mustang Mach-E electric crossover. Inside EVs discovered the dealers were increasing prices on the Mustang Mach-E by up to $15,000 due to the strong demand for the car, even for customers who had already placed their orders. So, the answer is simple. Let's get rid of dealers, right? And this is where the second problem reveals itself. In the United States, there are strict franchising and dealership laws that protect.
And the thing is, for the love of God, I could not understand why some general managers and managing directors at these Ford dealerships supported these unethical practices. This tells a lot about their thinking. It blows my mind that you will actually deliberately try to rip people off by price gouging, knowing the fact that they would have to come up with that extra $50,000 for a car that will be depreciating once you hit the road with it. Absolutely mind-boggling. Let's continue.
Protect the dealerships and the jobs they provide. 48 states have laws that limit or ban manufacturers from selling directly to customers. They must be sold exclusively through dealerships. As Ford has long-standing agreements and contracts in place, it makes it incredibly difficult to free themselves. Tesla, on the other hand, has never sold through the dealership model. Elon Musk's company has always maintained that dealerships will not be able to adequately communicate the benefits and differences of owning an EV compared to owning a conventional car. Therefore, they only sell direct or online. It is for this reason that Tesla only operates 170 showrooms and galleries in just 29 states.
And Tesla's model is simple. All they did was to innovate and use creativity. They saw the problem and they saw the need, and they want nothing to do with the possibilities of dealing with the third or the middleman right there. They said, you know what? Let's just make the cars, deliver it to the customers. That's it. Let's forget about all the problems that exist. However, I've made videos before, bashing them and things. And the reason why is because I defend the people at the dealership, not the building itself. The dealership is a building. People make up the building. And of course, you only have about one or two bad apples running around, making it bad for the entire industry. And I've worked alongside some of them. They're not all bad. It's just the bad experiences just leave a bad taste in people's mouth, and they will go out and they will vent and they will criticize and they will complain. And then we have consumer affairs and their legal team who will be readily available to assist them. But no, Ford has said enough is enough. It's like it's a cycle, and that cycle continues. I'm going to leave one last thought before I go. Let's continue this video.
Tesla came up with the name Gallery to get around these laws, as they are not selling cars but merely providing a space where potential customers can learn about their products. In these galleries, Tesla employees are not permitted to discuss pricing or finalize a purchase. In a Tesla gallery, orders are strictly taken over the phone or online. These purchases are handled as out-of-state transactions and must be finalized before the vehicle is shipped into the state. Although operationally complex, this creates an extremely streamlined model for Tesla and allows them to avoid middlemen and unwanted price increases. So, what will Ford do? According to multiple dealers, Ford tried to address the problem in a recent memo, explaining that raising prices had to stop or the dealership's stock would be impacted. However, a simple warning didn't seem to work. So, in a recently updated memo directly from Jim Farley, they have implemented a strict name match system, meaning that if a person orders a vehicle, then that person must be the sole recipient. Previously, dealers could use a loophole where within 120 days of the sale, the name match policy could be voided, meaning a dealership could order an F-150 Lightning and then tell Ford the customer had changed their mind. As long as they did this within 120 days of the sale, the dealership could receive the vehicle and sell it to anybody they wanted to, at an increased price, of course.
The fraud-thinking salesperson or managing director, they will always try to find a loophole to get around the system in order to, squeeze the pocket of that unforeseen customer. It's a darn shame, if you ask me. They're getting what is coming for them. Not everyone is like this. Only a few. It's only a few.
The new policy says that 75% of cars ordered by dealers must be name matched to a customer with a strict no cancellation policy. Dealers will now be held accountable for any name match policy violations, regardless of the circumstances. In 2023, this will rise to an 80% name match requirement. The consequences of breaking the name match have been heightened too. Dealers will lose a month's worth of allocations if they are caught breaking the name match, and dealers who break the name match 3 times will be terminated as a dealer. Jim Farley wants the dealerships to toe the line, but at the same time understands that removing them entirely is not the answer, or even possible at this stage. In a recent interview with Morgan Stanley, Farley suggests that it is not that simple to just go direct. It seems he can see a future where customers can still go to a dealership if things go wrong, but where the price of cars is transparent and regulated. Once we put in these standards, we can go to this leaner model for purchase and still have a physical follow-up for when things go wrong, said the Ford CEO.
And this is what capitalism has caused, free trade, free competition, free everything, freedom of speech. They have a right to compete in terms of how they want to operate their business and how they want to sell their cars. However, because commission is tied to sales and performance evaluations and everything else, and of course, who allocates the most vehicles, one could say Ford also is to be blamed because they facilitated this culture which has been festering for a very long time, and now they're reaping the fruits of this culture that they also participated in. It is just that we now live in modern times where customers are now free to voice their concerns and their opinion over various medias, and then it is totally accessible and can be seen by a wider society. That is why it has become overbearing on Ford, and it has caused them to take the action that they're doing right now.
Henry Ford's introduction of the Ford Model T in 1908 kick-started the modern vehicle industry as we know it today. 104 years later, Jim Farley has accepted the mammoth task of transforming a corporate juggernaut with archaic procedures into a company that operates like a startup. The old ways of selling cars do not work in the EV age. Unnecessary price increases will only frustrate customers and drive them to competitors. To stay ahead of the curve, Ford needs to make some changes, and they need to make them quickly. And Farley seems to understand. He has split Ford into 2 separate enterprises, one for traditional ICE cars and one for self-driving and electric vehicles. They have done this to give freedom to the EV side to innovate, avoid corporate red tape, and above all, move quickly. Let us know if you've had experiences with these price hikes. Has it put you off Ford, or do you think it's a teething problem?
Luckily, this is a North American problem. So customers outside the United States will still need to depend on dealerships in other countries all across the world. Let us here in the North worry about all this. For everybody else outside of the United States, I don't think you have nothing much to worry about, because the cars will still need to be shipped across the ocean to get to you. In addition, there are government regulations in place for the various countries outside of the United States. So those dealers will have far less concerns with what is going on. However, we do not encourage price gouging. Let us be transparent as much as possible, and let dealerships be the place that customers will want to choose first when purchasing that new car. Let's start the conversation below. Remember to grab a copy of my ebook, The Parts Manager Guide. The link will be in the description box below. Smash that like button on your way out. It will only take you 1.5 seconds to do so. Until next time.